The vast emptiness of space carried a peculiar transmission that day. June Park, a young research scientist working in a modest laboratory on the outskirts of Seoul, had no idea his planet was about to become the center of an extraordinary cosmic drama. In the cool, dimly lit room filled with blinking monitors and scattered research papers, June adjusted his glasses and studied a series of atmospheric anomalies. His colleagues often joked that he was more interested in data patterns than human conversations. Little did they know that his seemingly mundane research would soon change everything. Thousands of light years away, the Galactic Observation Council was conducting its routine planetary assessment. Kira Huan, a seasoned alien analyst with steel-gray skin and crystalline eyes, reviewed Earth's preliminary report. Her long, slender fingers scrolled through digital files, revealing humanity's technological measurements, population statistics, and global communication networks. Primitive civilization, she muttered, her translation device converting her native language into standard galactic communication. Potential threat level, minimal. The Council's massive holographic display showed Earth as a tiny blue dot, seemingly insignificant compared to the thousands of advanced civilizations mapped across the galaxy. Humans appeared fragile, their technological progress slow, their global conflicts constant, and their environmental challenges overwhelming. What the galactic observers didn't understand was the complex nature of human potential. Back on Earth, June's research team had been tracking unusual electromagnetic signals. These weren't typical radio waves or satellite communications. Something different was happening, something that didn't fit into standard scientific models. "Look at this," June said to his colleague Dasom, pointing at a particularly strange data pattern. "These signal variations, they're not random." Dasom leaned closer, her scientific curiosity piqued. The signals seemed to pulse with an intelligence that defied conventional understanding. They were complex, adaptive, almost alive. Meanwhile, in the sterile corridors of the Galactic Observation Council, Kira Huan prepared her standard classification report. Planets were typically categorized quickly. Some were marked for potential colonization, others for resource extraction, and some were simply ignored. Earth seemed destined for the last category. But hidden within Earth's seemingly chaotic systems was a remarkable adaptability. Humans had survived multiple global challenges: climate shifts, pandemics, technological disruptions, each time emerging more resilient, more innovative. June's research continued. The electromagnetic signals grew, more intricate. They seemed to be communicating something, but not in any language known to human science. It was as if the universe itself was trying to send a message. The Galactic Council would later review Kira Huan's initial report and find it laughably inadequate. But at that moment, Earth remained an unnoticed speck in the cosmic landscape. Dasom noticed something else about the signals. They seemed to respond to human observation. When their research team focused intensely, the signal patterns would shift, almost like a living organism adapting to stimulus. "This is impossible," Dasom whispered, her hands trembling slightly as she recorded the data. June understood. They were witnessing something beyond current scientific understanding. These signals suggested an intelligence that was neither purely technological nor biological, something entirely new. In the grand chambers of the Galactic Observation Council, such nuanced discoveries would be overlooked. Their classification, systems were rigid, built on thousands of years of standardized galactic protocols. They saw Earth as defenseless. They were wrong. The electromagnetic signals continued their mysterious dance, waiting for the moment when humanity would truly understand what was being communicated, waiting for the right combination of curiosity, intelligence, and courage to decode their message. June and Dasom worked through the night, their small laboratory, becoming a crucible of potential cosmic revelation. Outside, Seoul continued its bustling rhythm, completely unaware that its quiet researchers were about to challenge everything the galaxy thought it knew about intelligent life. The first contact was happening, not with a massive spacecraft or a dramatic alien landing, but through intricate electromagnetic whispers captured by two dedicated scientists who dared to look beyond conventional understanding. Earth's true nature was about to be revealed, not as a weak, insignificant planet, but as something far more complex and extraordinary than any galactic civilization could imagine. The signals pulsed. The universe waited, and humanity, in its beautiful, unpredictable way, was about to surprise everyone. The alien research team watched Earth with growing confusion. What they observed defied every standard protocol in their extensive galactic database. Humans were different. Completely, wonderfully different. Kira Huan reviewed countless video recordings of human interactions. A simple disagreement between two individuals could transform into complex emotional landscapes within seconds. Where alien civilizations would respond with calculated precision, humans introduced unpredictable variables. In a small coffee shop in Seoul, two friends argued passionately about a technological concept. Their conversation wasn't just an exchange of information. It was a dance of emotions, gestures, and unspoken understanding. One moment they were intense, the next they were laughing, then suddenly serious. The alien observation team found this particularly perplexing. Their communication models suggested such emotional volatility would create societal instability. Yet humans seemed to thrive on this very complexity. June Park's research team continued investigating the mysterious signals. Desam noticed something remarkable. The electromagnetic patterns seemed to respond to human emotional states. When the team experienced heightened excitement or deep concentration, the signals would change, becoming more intricate and responsive. "It's almost like the signals are alive," Desam whispered, her fingers tracing the complex wave patterns on her computer screen. Alien psychologists spent weeks analyzing human behavior. They discovered that humans could simultaneously hold contradictory emotions. An individual could feel happiness and sadness, hope and fear, all within moments. Such psychological flexibility was unheard of in most galactic civilizations. A young worker in a busy Seoul office demonstrated this perfectly. During a challenging project, she would switch between stress, determination, creativity, and humor with astonishing speed. Where alien workers would maintain a constant, controlled emotional state, humans transformed continuously. The observation team discovered something even more fascinating. Humans had an extraordinary ability to understand complex emotional nuances through minimal communication. A single gesture, a brief eye contact, a subtle change in tone could communicate volumes of information. Kira Huan's research notes became increasingly complex. What initially seemed like a weakness, emotional unpredictability, was actually a sophisticated survival mechanism. Humans could adapt, negotiate, and resolve conflicts through emotional intelligence that surpassed purely logical systems. In another part of the world, a group of children played a strategic game. Their interactions were filled with complex psychological maneuvers, negotiation, manipulation, cooperation, and competition happening simultaneously. Each child understood unspoken rules that no formal instruction could teach. The alien team realized humans were not just communicating. They were constantly creating and recreating social dynamics. Their psychological complexity was a form of advanced technology, one that couldn't be measured by traditional scientific instruments. June Park's electromagnetic signal research took an unexpected turn. The signals seemed to have a form of intelligence that responded to human psychological states. When the research team experienced collective excitement or deep focus, the signals would transform, becoming more structured and meaningful. "We're dealing with something beyond our current understanding," June told Dasam, his eyes reflecting both scientific excitement and philosophical wonder. The Galactic Observation Team began to understand that human unpredictability was not a weakness, but a sophisticated evolutionary strategy. Where other civilizations had rigid communication and social structures, humans had developed a system of constant adaptation. Their psychological complexity was a survival mechanism more advanced than any technological defense system. As days passed, The alien researchers found themselves increasingly fascinated. Humans were not just a species to be categorized and studied. They were a living, breathing puzzle. Complex, beautiful, and utterly unpredictable. The signals continued their mysterious dance, waiting for the moment when humanity would unlock their true potential, waiting for the right combination of emotional intelligence and scientific curiosity to decode their hidden message. Earth remained unaware of the cosmic observation. Seoul's streets continued their bustling rhythm, with millions of humans creating and recreating their social world with every interaction. Little did they know that their psychological complexity was about to challenge everything the galaxy thought. It knew about intelligent life. The universe watched, the signals pulsed, and humanity, in its wonderfully chaotic way, continued to evolve. The laboratory hummed with quiet intensity. June Park's fingers moved rapidly across the keyboard, lines of complex code dancing across multiple screens. What seemed like a simple research project was about to change everything humanity understood about technology. Dasum Kim watched closely, her breath catching as a breakthrough began to take shape. The quantum communication prototype they had been developing was unlike anything in current scientific understanding. Thousands of light years away, the Galactic Observation Council continued their routine monitoring. They saw Earth as a primitive planet with limited technological capabilities. Their scanning systems classified human technology as rudimentary, barely worth serious consideration. They were wrong. The breakthrough came unexpectedly. June had been studying the mysterious electromagnetic signals, attempting to understand their complex patterns. What started as a standard research project became something extraordinary. The signals seemed to respond to human thought patterns in ways that defied traditional scientific explanation. "Look at this," June whispered to Dasum, pointing at the computer screen. The signal patterns were transforming, adapting to their research approach. It was almost as if the signals were learning, growing more complex with each interaction. The prototype they were developing wasn't just a communication device. It was a bridge between human consciousness and technological systems. Traditional communication relied on sending and receiving information. This new technology could anticipate, adapt, and respond in ways no previous system could. In the small research facility, surrounded by outdated equipment and stacks of scientific journals, humanity was about to take its most significant technological leap. The alien observation team began to notice something unusual. Their standard monitoring systems started experiencing interference whenever June's team conducted their research. Complex data streams would become scrambled. Communication channels would momentarily collapse and then rebuild themselves in entirely new configurations. Kira Hwan, the senior alien analyst, found herself spending more time investigating these anomalies. What was happening on this seemingly insignificant blue planet? Dasum discovered that the quantum communication prototype could do more than transmit information. It could learn, adapt, and potentially predict communication patterns before they occurred. This wasn't just a technological advance, it was a fundamental reimagining of how communication could work. The signals continued their mysterious dance. Sometimes they appeared random, other times they showed intricate patterns that suggested a form of intelligence beyond current scientific understanding. Global technology companies began hearing rumors. Something was happening in this small research facility that could change everything. Investors started showing interest, though few understood the true potential of what June and Dasum were developing. "We're not just creating a communication device," June explained to his team. "We're building a living system that can understand and adapt to complex information in real time." The breakthrough challenged everything known about technological development. Most advanced civilizations develop technology through linear progression. Humans were creating something that could evolve, that could learn and transform continuously. The Galactic Observation Council's initial reports would later be viewed as hilariously inadequate. What they saw as a primitive planet was actually on the verge of a technological revolution that would reshape understanding of communication and consciousness. Late one night, as Seoul's streets grew quiet and the research facility remained illuminated, June and Dasam made their final adjustments. The prototype began to pulse with an energy that seemed almost alive. "It's responding," Dasam whispered, her hand trembling slightly. The quantum communication device wasn't just receiving or sending signals. It was communicating in a way that suggested a form of intelligence. It could anticipate communication patterns, understand contextual nuances, and adapt in milliseconds. Outside, the city continued its rhythm. Millions of people moved through their daily lives completely unaware that within this small laboratory, humanity was about to change everything. The signals pulsed, the prototype hummed, and the universe watched, waiting to see what would happen next. Humanity's technological leap was about to begin. Climate disasters had reshaped continents. Economic systems had collapsed and rebuilt themselves multiple times. Pandemics had tested human survival limits. Yet somehow people continued to adapt, to grow, to survive. In Seoul, June Park watched the city's reconstruction. Massive environmental challenges had transformed urban landscapes. Buildings now grew plants on their walls. Water recycling systems turned every drop into a precious resource. Streets adapted with flexible infrastructure that could change based on community needs. Kira Hwan, the alien observer, found human cultural resilience absolutely fascinating. Where other galactic civilizations would have collapsed under similar challenges, humans seemed to transform their very existence into a survival strategy. A group of young engineers worked on a community project. They weren't just rebuilding, they were reimagining how humans could live together. One moment they argued passionately, the next they collaborated with incredible efficiency. Their diversity became their greatest strength. Global communication, networks had evolved. Traditional national boundaries meant less and less. People connected through shared ideas, collaborative projects, and complex social networks that transcended physical limitations. Daesam Kim's research team discovered something remarkable about human cultural adaptation. Their quantum communication prototype revealed that human social systems were living, breathing entities. They could absorb shock, transform, and rebuild faster than any technological system. In a small community center, elderly individuals taught younger generations survival skills. Not just technical knowledge, but emotional intelligence, problem-solving, and adaptability. Each generation carried the wisdom of those who came before, constantly updating their understanding of the world. The alien observation team watched in complete amazement. Humans didn't just survive challenges, they used those challenges to become stronger. An economic collapse would lead to new collaborative economic models. An environmental disaster would spark innovative ecological solutions. June observed how different cultural groups shared knowledge. A solution developed in a small African village could quickly be adapted by researchers in South America. Information moved like a living network, constantly changing, growing, transforming. Cultural resilience wasn't just about survival. It was about continuous evolution. The mysterious electromagnetic signals continued their dance, seeming to respond to human collective experiences. When communities faced challenges, the signals would become more complex, more structured. Global education systems had transformed. Learning was no longer about memorizing information, but about developing adaptive thinking. Children learned multiple languages, understood complex global systems, and were taught to see challenges as opportunities for innovation. Kira Hwan's research notes became increasingly complex. Humans weren't just a species, they were a dynamic living system of continuous adaptation. In refugee communities, people who had lost everything would quickly organize, create new social structures, develop economic systems, and rebuild their lives. Where other species might have collapsed, humans saw opportunity in destruction. The quantum communication prototype developed by June and Dasom began to reveal something extraordinary. Human cultural systems had a form of intelligence that went beyond individual human capabilities. It was like a collective consciousness that could learn, adapt, and transform. Communities developed localized solutions to global challenges. A small farming community might develop a water conservation technique that could be adapted worldwide. An educational approach from one culture could revolutionize learning in another. Alien observers struggled to understand this complexity. Their own civilizations had rigid, structured approaches to survival. Humans were fluid, dynamic, constantly changing. The signals pulsed with increasing complexity. They seemed to be learning from human cultural experiences, becoming more sophisticated, with each collective human challenge overcome. Seoul's streets told a story of transformation. Old and new existed side by side. Traditional architecture blended with futuristic design. Cultural practices evolved, keeping their essence while adapting to new realities. Humanity wasn't just surviving. They were creating a new way of existing. Dubai. Universe watched, fascinated, and the signals continued their mysterious dance, waiting to reveal their ultimate secret. June Park stood in the United Global Council chamber, surrounded by representatives from every continent. The mysterious electromagnetic signals had finally revealed their true purpose. Humanity's seemingly vulnerable status was about to become its most powerful weapon. Kira Huan, the alien observer, watched from a hidden transmission point. Her entire understanding of galactic dynamics was about to be challenged. For decades, Earth had appeared weak. Constant internal conflicts, environmental challenges, and technological limitations made humans look like perfect targets. The Galactic Confederation had long considered Earth a potential easy conquest. They were wrong. The quantum communication prototype developed by June and Dasum was more than a technological breakthrough. It was a strategic masterpiece that had been quietly evolving, learning, and preparing. "We are not defenseless," June announced, his voice calm and steady. "We are strategically positioned." The signals began to demonstrate their true complexity. They weren't just communication channels, they were a collective intelligence that had been studying galactic civilizations for decades. Humanity's apparent weakness was a carefully constructed illusion. Global defense systems that seemed primitive were actually adaptive networks capable of instantaneous reconfiguration. Economic systems that looked chaotic were actually resilient mechanisms designed to survive any potential attack. Dasam revealed the first layer of their strategic plan. The electromagnetic signals could simultaneously communicate with and confuse any potential alien communication systems. What seemed like random noise was actually a complex defensive mechanism. The Galactic Confederation's initial invasion plans started crumbling. Their intelligence reports, carefully collected over decades, suddenly looked completely inadequate. Humanity had been playing a long game. Every technological limitation, every apparent weakness, was part of an elaborate strategic camouflage. They had been learning, adapting, preparing. The quantum communication prototype could do something extraordinary. It could predict potential conflict scenarios with incredible accuracy. More than that, it could develop multiple response strategies. In milliseconds, Kira Huan watched in absolute amazement. Humans weren't just defending themselves. They were rewriting the rules of galactic engagement. Global leaders presented a unified front. Years of internal conflicts had taught humanity how to present a coordinated response. Cultural diversity became their greatest strategic advantage. No single approach could predict or counter their potential actions. The signals pulsed with an intelligence that suggested something beyond traditional understanding. They weren't just communication channels. They were a living, adaptive network that had been studying potential threats for generations. "We offer peace," June announced, "but we are prepared for anything." The alien observation teams realized they had fundamentally misunderstood humanity. What looked like weakness was actually the most sophisticated defensive strategy in galactic history. Technological innovations that seemed random were actually carefully designed adaptive systems. Economic models that appeared chaotic were resilient mechanisms designed to survive any potential disruption. Dasam explained how human cultural adaptability was their ultimate weapon. No standard invasion strategy could account for their ability to transform, learn, and respond. The Galactic Confederation's leadership found themselves in an unprecedented situation. Humanity wasn't just defending itself. It was demonstrating a level of strategic thinking that challenged everything they understood about intelligent life. The electromagnetic signals continued their complex dance. They were more than communication channels. They were a collective intelligence that had been quietly preparing, learning, evolving. Seoul, once considered a simple city, now represented the epicenter of this strategic revelation. A place where technological innovation, cultural diversity, and adaptive thinking converged. June and Dasam had done more than develop a communication prototype. They had revealed humanity's true nature, a species capable of turning apparent weakness into its greatest strength. The universe watched, waiting. Humanity had arrived on the galactic stage, not as a weak, vulnerable species, but as a strategic powerhouse that had been quietly preparing for this moment. The signals pulsed. The world held its breath.